Hello, hello, and welcome to Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Men. I'm Martina and I'm here with Christina, and we are deep divers and avid students of life. And we're also powerful facilitators for healing. In real life, I'm a life coach specializing in parent and women empowerment, and I'm also a sound healer.
And I'm Christina. I'm an intuitive healer who blends massage therapy with energy work to provide customized holistic services for my clients. Martina and I both love incorporating crystals, essential oils, angelic Reiki, and intuitive guidance into our work.
So let me tell you about the context of why we created this podcast. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men are tough and silent and forceful, or women are chatty and manipulative and emotional. And in doing that, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone is not fitting the mold, we might call them a tomboy or a sissy, right? Those and similar labels often cause discord, sorry. What would the world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle and deep and powerful and tough and fierce and open. That qualities are not specific to a gender. That we all have all qualities available to express. What would the world look like where we all are free to be who we choose to be and express all our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. When we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. And today we're here with Bill. Bill, do you want to introduce yourself and tell our listeners who you are, what you do?
Yes, I can give a little bit of background about myself if you'd like. So currently, I'm blessed to be working as a full-time energy healer. The modality I trained in 21 years ago is called Pranic Healing, and I know that can be a very generic term. It can mean any type of energy healing, but the specific form I learned was taught by energy master Choa Kok Sui. And so those I stumbled into that type of training and never ever imagined it would lead to a full-time business. The reality is I had a very fulfilling career in the fire department. Growing up as a kid, pretty much the only thing I ever wanted to be in life was a firefighter. And I just idolized firemen. Saw them on the fire engines. I just would chase the sirens, and those were truly my heroes. And I remember growing up as a young child, I was like, man, I would really like to be a fireman someday. And as I got older, I always had this doubt in myself because I was like, wait a minute, these guys are big and strong. I'm skinny and weak. How am I going to be able to do that type of job? Because I just didn't have the build for being a firefighter. And I ended up volunteering. I got involved with the fire department as a volunteer, and those guys were just amazing and basically mentored me and coached me and helped me learn enough to how I could develop the strength and the stamina and the endurance. And so after about 8 years of volunteering, I eventually landed a full-time career position with Santa Ana Fire Department as a firefighter. Later on, went on to become a paramedic. And, there's a show back in the day called Emergency Squad 51. I don't know if you remember, it was on in the 70s.
I remember.
Run home from school to watch that show. It was like those guys were my heroes and my role models. And so when I became a paramedic, I was like, okay, I am now a firefighter paramedic, living my dream job. And, I was fortunate through my career that I enjoyed going to work every day. Not many people can say that, right? A lot of people are kind of just stuck going to the grind and just trying to make ends meet, but not happy with their job. I loved my job. I was very satisfied with the fire department, and it gave me a chance to promote and to learn how to drive and become an engineer, and eventually promoted to the rank of captain. And so really the fire department fulfilled so much of everything that we want in life, right? Um, talk about how we need certain variety in our life and the feeling of significance and contribution. All of that stuff is given by the fire department. But when I got into this energy healing a couple years back, I thought to myself, like, this is really wild. Here I am working in medicine and seeing the healthcare system from a point of view that I never really saw before, looking at it from the inside. And I thought to myself, like, okay, we have amazing technology, we got great facilities, fantastic people working in medicine. Why is it that our healthcare is so leaves so much to be desired for most people? Like a lot of people weren't getting good quality healthcare, and like it caused this real, conflict in my mind. And so I loved what I did in emergency medicine, but what I saw for chronic illness just wasn't doing it for people. And yet, as I got into energy healing and I was watching, like, wait a minute, these people are getting healed. Like, we're seeing things get fixed, not just symptom management. These people are getting fixed. And it wasn't just healing their physical body, their life was getting better in other ways. Like, even their emotional state was better and their relationships were being healed. And I was just seeing that the whole big picture was being handled. And I thought, okay, this is really cool. The emergency medicine is fun and all, and it has its place. But I felt like when I was doing my pranic healing, which was on my days off, that's really where I felt rewarded on the inside because these were making lasting changes for the people I was working on. So over the years, I started thinking like, boy, wouldn't it be cool if I could just do that as my job, like just do pranic healing as my career. And so I ended up getting to the point where I was starting to get busier and busier and busier on my days off doing more healing. And then kind of saw like, wait a minute, I think I can leave the fire department. I think I can make enough in my pranic healing work to kind of balance things out. And so I was really lucky in my situation. I was able to take retirement just before the age of 50. We have like age 50 is our minimum retirement age. Actually, now it's 57. They keep pushing it up, but I was hired on earlier, so I was able to take retirement at age 50. And so with that, I had enough years of service so that my income was enough to where my healing income could make everything work out. And I'll tell you, I'm very, very fortunate because I had a job that I absolutely loved. I was not burned out on the fire department at all. I still enjoyed the excitement of going on calls and the challenge. It was physically challenging, mentally challenging. I loved all of that. But I could also tell the wear and tear on the body is no joke. Like that job is for the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds. We have men and women in the fire department. I don't care who you are. When you're in your 40s, you start feeling it. Like all of a sudden things start getting heavy. And the wake ups at night just start taking a little toll on the heart because that adrenaline release is just it's tough. So I thought to myself, I'm very fortunate. Most guys stay on the fire department because they have been divorced and they're still trying to rebuild their retirement after their ex-wife took half of their retirement. That's just the nature of the career. And I'm not divorced. I'm still married to my wife. And so I figured, you know what? I should take advantage of the fact that I'm in a situation I don't have to keep working too much longer. So I did leave. Best decision I ever made. I missed the fire department a little bit because the camaraderie, you just can't match the camaraderie. It was great to basically have a second family that you get to hang out with. But I also enjoy hanging out with my own family. The fact that I'm not working those long hours, I get to spend a lot more quality time with my wife and children, and that's a blessing in itself. So the fact that it's become, leaving something that I enjoyed to do something that I enjoy even more. And here's the thing, while I worked as a firefighter, I enjoyed my job, but I didn't really feel inside like this was my purpose in life. I was good at what I did. I trained hard. I felt like over the years of experience, I felt very competent in my work. But when I was on my days off doing healings on people, I had a feeling inside like this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here for. I'm actually healing these people, and it's not me doing the healing, but I have a skill that's allowing these people to heal. And I figured like this, if I was looking for a purpose in life, I found it. This is what I'm here for. And so I'm just, blessed on so many levels that I was able to just really pursue what I felt was my true passion, what really lifted me up and made me feel like this was my purpose in life. How many people can say that? So that's where I am now. And so the work now in energy healing, now that this is my full time, it's given me so much freedom to create the schedule that that basically fits my lifestyle. And the irony of it is in my years on the fire department when I should have been my strongest, I actually feel like I'm stronger and healthier now. Just the fact that I'm off the job. I do feel like I've caught up on about 30 years of sleep deprivation over the time I've been retired. It's the weirdest thing. I can go to bed at night now and I don't have to wake up till morning. I don't know what that feels like. Yeah, the nighttime wake ups were tough. But that's kind of who I am as far as what I do. And so you know, it's interesting. I'm excited for the chance to talk about what you have going on here because you know, even in working in medicine, we realize that no two people are the same. Um, Even in medicine, they have this certain science, they try to figure out how to treat people, but when you try to treat everybody the same, you're going to make some mistakes along the way because there are no two human beings created alike. And I learned that in my career, and I've learned that even more in the healing work. But already when you start trying to put people into a category or put them into a box, you're gonna make some mistakes along the way. And so it's fun that you're actually recognizing that and looking to try to dispel that myth through your channel.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, the question that came up as you were talking is like, so what had you, like, how did you find pranic healing? Was it just because there was this discrepancy, or was there something else that happened?
Yeah, so that's a fun little story in itself. So you have to realize this is not part of my upbringing. You know, some people have some type of childhood exposure to energy work or their family does folk medicine or something like that. Not my case. Okay. My family was not into any of this at all, and my training was paramedic school. So to talk about energy healing, my mind was as closed could be. Okay. But there was some time, and it was right after I became a paramedic. I was going through some family stress. We had some situations going on home that were just really, really. I didn't realize how much stress it was causing in my life until I realized I was going to work on Santa Ana's busiest medic unit for my Serenity. And the city I worked in, it was a very low socioeconomic class. There was a lot of gang violence. So, you know, we were running a lot of shootings, a lot of stabbings, a lot of drug overdoses. And that's where I was finding my inner peace. And so I realized that things are not going well at home. Now, in my city, I lived in Huntington Beach. We got this magazine one day in the mail, and it was called The Sands, and it's the city Huntington Beach community classes that they offer. And I'm like, okay, let me throw this away, but I'm going to flip through it quick before I throw it away. And so I'm flipping through this magazine, and I see one of the classes was advertised as a meditation class. And it said it's good for stress, it's good for anxiety. It's a simple technique. You can practice it anywhere, and it has very quick effects. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is what I need. Maybe I need to take this meditation class and it's going to help me out with my stress and anxiety. And it's only 39 bucks for 4 nights. If it doesn't work, I'm only out $39, so what the heck, right? So I signed up for the class, and the lady teaching the class happened to be a pranic healing instructor. And so she was teaching us how to meditate, but she was also talking about pranic healing. And she was saying there's this healing technique, you just wave your hands and you feel the energy and it can heal people. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to call two thumbs down on that because I don't think you can do that. And she even demonstrated it in our class. Some of the ladies had like some shoulder pain and some neck pain and some back pain. And this lady's just waving her hand. And these other ladies are like, oh my gosh, it feels so much better. And I was like, time out. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but it's a bunch of BS. And so she said, you know, I teach the class. You can sign up for my class and I'll teach you how to do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time or money. I was like so skeptical, like you have no idea. But she kind of was the first introduction I had to pranic healing. And so now I was a new paramedic. As we're going through my field work now, things were happening that were really opening my mind. And I'd have to say, I already talked about seeing the healthcare system. Part of it was seeing the healthcare system, and I was like, okay, a lot of people aren't getting good care. And I wasn't really even opposed to the healthcare system. I was just really kind of bummed out on how it wasn't helping people out. But what really started opening my mind was I was watching a lot of people die. And in my previous trainee experiences, I worked in areas where there wasn't so much gang violence. So most people who died were old people. And I'm like, okay, hey, it's just their time, right? You know, old person goes to bed and doesn't wake up in the morning, or maybe they just had the big one and they died. It's like, okay, at least they're old, right? But now I'm in an area where I'm seeing a lot of kids, like my same age practically, getting shot, and they're not dead. They're still alive. But on the way to the hospital, they would, you know, they'd stop, their heart would stop beating on the way to the hospital, or right after we get to the hospital. And I was actually kind of noticing that you could almost see the life leaving their body. And it just intrigued me. Like I was like, where did they go? A few minutes ago they were awake and talking, and then they went unconscious, and now they're dead. But you could kind of, it was just fascinating to me. Like I was really wondering, where did they go? And so I started getting more curious than anything else. And I didn't know what my belief was. I mean, I believed in heaven, but I didn't really know what that looked like when you die, because I never saw people in that process before. And about that same time, there was a TV show on late at night. It was called Crossing Over with John Edward. I don't know if you ever saw that TV show. It was on like 11 o'clock at night. I'd stay up and watch it because this guy supposedly he could talk to the afterlife, right? And he'd have these messages for the crowd. And I'm like, I don't know if this guy is full of baloney or not, but it's really inspiring if he's telling the truth. And so I started studying the writings of other mediums like Sylvia Browne and James Van Praagh, and I started reading their books. And I'm like, these people are all either getting together and corroborating their stories, or there might be something true. And it was all very inspiring. Like the message from the other side, these people are all super, super positive. And I thought, you know what? This is just this whole world of is really interesting to me. And so my mind was opening little by little. I could say that my stepping into metaphysics was starting to happen. And then, so about a year and a half has passed since I took that meditation class. And now my wife is pregnant. And her first pregnancy went fine. She had a very simple pregnancy. Delivery was pretty difficult, but at least the pregnancy itself was no big deal. Now her second pregnancy, she was miserable. Her whole body was swelling up and she was in pain 24/7. She couldn't sleep at night, and we'd go to the doctor and I'm like, "Hey doc, can you figure this out?" And they're like, "Everything we can check looks normal. There's nothing we can do. After the pregnancy is done, she'll be fine." And I'm like, okay, awesome. We're only 4 months along, so that's a long freaking time still. I'm like, what are we going to do for the next 5 months? Because she was miserable. And I was like, okay, that weird lady that taught the meditation class said that pranic healing can work when the doctors don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's kind of where we are right now. The doctors have given us zero options right now. So let's check it out. I go online and search Pranic Healing. The website comes up, and there's a class coming up being taught by the main United States instructor. And I'm like, okay, it's in LA, it's 250 bucks. What the heck? Why don't I take the class and see if it helps my wife? That's how it all started. And when I went into this class, I'll tell you what helped me. The first lady was talking about it. You just feel the energy. And that made no sense to me. When I took class with Master Ko, he's an electrical engineer. And this technique was developed by a chemical engineer. And so he's saying this is science, this is electromagnetics, and he was able to give me the scientific steps which fit in my brain better than you just feel the energy. Because at that point I didn't feel a thing. But having something that worked better in my male brain was definitely what I needed, so that when I started trying it, even though I couldn't feel anything, my wife started feeling better. And once she felt better, I was like, okay, it must be all in your head. Total placebo effect, because I didn't do anything, right? But hey, it doesn't matter. As long as you're feeling better, whatever, right? That's what I was thinking. And then her family had some health problems, and they're like, well, why don't you try it on me? Can you try it on me? So I'm doing healings on her parents. And all of a sudden, their stuff started going away. And I'm like, wait a minute. I could validate their stuff. Their stuff wasn't just pain. It was like limited range of motion. It was swelling. It was like some actual physical things that I could watch going away in a few minutes. And I'm like, this is wild. This is really wild. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing this with my hands, but all of a sudden I'm seeing things in your body changing. So from that point forward, I was just like just lit. I mean, from that point forward, the flame was lit, and I was just on fire, because I was like, I could take more classes. I gotta learn how to do this better and actually see it working. Yeah, so that's how I got started in it all. And I just started for my wife. Like to do this as a business was never, not even a shred in my mind at the time when I first started. It was truly, but after getting started and seeing it work, I thought to myself, like, wait a minute, I'm watching them build big hospitals in my county, and these hospitals are big. That's how many sick people they're getting ready for. And yet, here I am doing this, and I'm making these illnesses go away. Like I'm making people's blood pressure get normal, and I'm making their allergies go away. Like all of a sudden, I'm watching all headaches migraines are going away. I'm like, wait a second, this is what these people need. All those people, they don't need to go there. They need to do this. So I was just like, I need to, I think that's when early on I started figuring out like, how can I do this more? And so it's been an amazing journey, to say the least.
It's cool because your wife was your catalyst, right?
She
And you were open
started the
enough
whole thing.
to and curious enough to follow it, right? And that's one of the things, like I don't know how you were before because I have not known you like before, but one of the things that I appreciate is like your I don't know what the word is. It's like I'm gonna say optimism for the lack of another word, like that, like that the joy of life. That's what I see. And and then I was thinking about, listening to the people with the messages, and they're always positive. And it's like, yeah, it's always the messages are all about love, right? And if we can really step into that, it's like, of course you're gonna feel joyful. Of course you're gonna feel, good. Of course you're gonna be excited about life if we can remember that, right? If we can truly remember that. So Bill, if we really knew you, what will we know?
Well, I think you would know that, even before getting into any kind of energy work, I was already pretty much an optimistic person. People would say I'm like one of the most positive people that they've ever met. I always had a smile on my face. And I think that's because even before getting into energy work, I was just a student of life. And so I like to me, I am an expert at nothing. I truly don't believe that I know anything naturally, but I love to learn. So I'm always learning. I'm truly I enjoyed school, any class, any training, anything that I can learn from, I enjoy. And so early on, I just started studying by different, authors and reading books. And some of these, I don't know if you'd call them self-help books, but a lot of these readings that I would study talk about how we have a choice to make, about how we feel. And I just decided early on in life, like, okay, well, if I have a choice, I might as well decide to feel good. If I can choose to be happy or be miserable, why not choose to be happy? And so I just maybe learned early on that we do have a choice to make. If we don't make that choice, we either let someone else make that choice for us, or we just become a victim of our circumstances. And so I decided that if maybe it was an experiment. Maybe I'm just going to see what it's like to choose to be happy. And so I would just, kind of make a conscious decision to look for the good in things, to always look for the bright side in things. And then later on, you learn that whatever you're looking for, you're probably going to find it. If you're looking for what's going wrong in the world, you're going to see a lot of what's going wrong in the world. And you don't have to work too hard to see that. But if you put a little effort to look at what's going right in the world, you'll find it. There is so much going right. There's so much going great in this world. And it really comes down to where you start looking and put your attention. So maybe that's what I did from an early age, and maybe that's why I was happy. I was always happy and always positive because I was always looking for what's right. And when I meet somebody new, I'm always looking for what's good about this person. And then later on, maybe you'll get hurt a few times. Maybe you'll get hurt a few times, but as opposed to looking for a person's faults and then just, taking that as the first way that you meet somebody, I guess that's kind of defines my early ages, and maybe that's why it led to a great life because you know, you do truly get what you're looking for. And the more I learn, we do have a decision. We do have a choice to make. And so it might not always be the easy choice, but if you really make that conscious decision to 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 keep a positive attitude, and you know, you hear some of the people that I've been you know, quoted along the years. They talk about like people who survived the World War, you know, the World Wars and went through some atrocities, and yet were able to keep in their mind you know, this positive outlook, and that's what helped them survive. It's
Mhm.
like it truly is such a powerful tool that we all have. Like every single one of us has a mind that we can use, but it takes like anything else, it takes some training. It takes some strength training to keep it
Oh yeah.
you know, in that state. But the rewards are so great, you know.
Yeah.
And
So Bill,
maybe if you wonder who I am, you know, maybe when I look around at the other people who aren't doing that, you know, it's a little bit of a bummer to see people that are like, man, why don't you just think better? And at the same time, I realize that everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be. We really do have to honor that everyone as a soul is exactly where they're supposed to be. And so we can help try to lift them up. But at the same time, if they're not ready for it, the least I can do is just not let them drag me down.
Yeah, amen. So Bill, I'm curious, was there an event or an incident that kind of sparked that choice that I could choose to be happy? Like, or was that just something that was always in you? You just knew that was a choice you got to make in the moment.
Let me try and think if there was something specific. I feel like part of it was when I think back. So I was born in Wisconsin and lived my first couple years in Wisconsin. Right before my sixth birthday, my parents moved us out to California, and I've grown up in California ever since. And so this will kind of make sense when I say when I lived in Wisconsin, it was a small town called Kewaskum. If you ever wanted to give directions, you just tell people you go to the stoplight, and then from there you tell them which way to go. Okay, that was the town I grew up in. I walked on my own to kindergarten. Okay. When it was snowing, I climbed over the snowdrift, crossed the street, climbed over the other snowdrift, and went the rest of the way to school. When we got to California, that was kind of the way of life my parents knew. So that's how I grew up, even in Huntington Beach. And it was a safe city, right? It wasn't like we worried about too much, but there was no structure to my upbringing. My parents were busy working. My dad worked, my mom worked. They were working to make the payments and keep food on the table. Meanwhile, I was just left to go do whatever. And basically come home when the street lights are on. So I spent a lot of time either hanging out with friends, but if I wasn't hanging out with friends, I was pretty much bored. And now I look back on it and I think that was the greatest blessing on anything because that boredom forced me to do something, to think of something, you know, figure something out. I don't know, figure something to keep yourself occupied. And now I think about it, like with my kids' upbringing, we had there was, you know, soccer practice, then there was scouts, and then my daughter had gymnastics, and then we had so much stuff. They didn't have a chance to be bored. They didn't have a chance to actually have to think about something for themselves. And I think like maybe nowadays that's maybe a disservice. So I don't know.
Mm.
I can't think of any one specific thing, but I think that in my younger days, having to think for myself kind of put me in that position where I had to start coming up with something and then deciding how to think.
Really cool. Hmm.
Yeah, I think we should let our kids be bored a little bit every now and then. Oh, the problem is they got the little phone that they start scrolling on, and that's even worse.
Well, I was just gonna say, let them be bored, but take away all their like
Yes, yes, you gotta take
technology.
away. You
Give
gotta
them
basically say,
books and games and outdoors
go
and
outside. Yeah, go outside and do something. Go outside and do something. Yeah, there cannot be no electronic devices. Yeah, that's the
yeah.
reality of today.
Like let them go build a tree house or something, right? Like
Yeah,
that'll keep them
go
occupied for
dig. Go dig in the dirt or build a tree house or go, you know, I don't know, what fold newspapers into boats and put them in the gutter or something. You know, do something like that that forces you to become creative and
yeah.
think. Yes.
Good stuff.
So, Bill, what do you do for fun?
You know, my fun is really just the fact now that I have the freedom to do whatever I want to do. And that was the biggest problem when I was working for the fire department. I had a set schedule of days I knew I was going to work. But if there was ever a day where someone didn't show up, it's like, hey, you're working again today. We'd get forced overtime. Sometimes there was voluntary extra shifts. Sometimes it was mandatory extra shifts. The fact now that I have my own schedule, like all my time is free. And so I'm finding what I enjoy doing. You know what? I kind of just wake up in the morning and make my cup of lemon water. I have lemon juice and water first thing. Doing things to care for my health, that's my fun now. So I make a cup of water first thing, and then I throw a bunch of vegetables in a blender and I make a big smoothie. And that smoothie is going to be my drink for the whole day. So in the morning now, when I said I feel stronger now, when I was on the department, I never really had a good workout routine. If I was on duty, we're supposed to work out, but once the bells go off, you got to run that call and then that workout's done. And when I got home, I'd just be too tired to work out. So now I have a really good workout routine that I can do, and I've got no excuses. I have the time and I got a good night's sleep, so I got no excuses. And so some of that self-care and the different types of self-care that I do. I got into a sensory deprivation float tank. Okay, there's a really good place nearby where you can just lay in the salt water and just float for an hour in darkness. It's amazing how good you feel when you do that. Some of those self-care things that I never really did over the years, I'm doing those now, and I'm finding that taking care of myself, that's my fun. Um, I don't really like to watch TV. I like listening to music. So if I'm going to do something around the house, I'll put on some music and just kind of listen to that while I keep myself occupied. I can go on a bike ride if I feel like it. It's just all the little things that I never had time to do. And also, granted, my kids are a little older now. Okay, when the kids were growing up, it was just there was no free time, like not one free second, right? If I wasn't working, I was at home and the kids were just constantly, and I loved that. I loved the fact that I could be home taking care of my kids and working with the family then too. But now just having some me time is amazing. Like I can schedule healing sessions, but when I don't have when I don't have a healing session scheduled, I can just do whatever I feel like doing and really the self-care, I would say the fun right now is just my self-care.
I love that. I think that's the best answer I've heard in a long time, that self-care equals fun. Yay! Yay. I wish more people could get to that point where their self-care is fun and enjoyable and
But
pleasurable
here's
and
an
all of that.
interesting irony too, is men aren't good at self-care. We're terrible at it.
Women are much better, so just so you
Okay,
know.
I would say I know women, eventually women kind of like they do take care of themselves in certain whatever ways that they feel good. But you're right, a lot of women probably aren't good at it either. But men just flat out, there's nothing wrong with us. We're good. I mean, we're
Yeah.
good, but there's nothing wrong with us. So we don't feel like we need self-care. And
That's a good point, because I think men look at it from a point of when we suggest it to them that it's something's wrong, whereas women, we just can't fit it in our schedule. Like, we're going to take everyone else's needs first before we ever deal with our own, and so it's
yeah,
just a different
Or
perspective.
for women, we do like the superficial, right? We get our hair done or our nails done or we go shopping, but that's not really well, it is, but it isn't, right? It's not really
no,
self-care, but
that's a
it
great
is
point
and it
though.
isn't,
That is
right?
a great point. Women are focused on a certain type of self-care that is not their true self. That is so true.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny, because that on the opposite, I haven't had my hair like professionally cut since, like, I can't even say. My hairdresser moved during COVID, and I tried someone else once, and I didn't like her, and so I've been cutting my own hair for like the past 4 years. I But for me, my self-care is acupuncture. My acupuncture is my self-care. You don't see it unless I have cupping marks, but that's it. That's my self-care. And my yoga classes, that's my self-care.
No, I'm, like I say, most
I
people
know, believe me,
go for the superficial, and it's like, well, I took care of myself, right? And it's like, or even like as you say, working out or eating, but then there's the whole different other aspect of meditating, of taking care of your mind, of choosing, right? Choosing what you watch, choosing what you listen to, choosing how you're going to live your day, right? That is as much self-care as anything else.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true.
So, Bill, what was your biggest lesson you've learned? So, for example, what was your biggest challenge, or what made you who you are today, or what took the most courage?
You know, I feel like one of the biggest challenges we face is we're always, I don't know, maybe we call it the greener grass theory. We always think things are better somewhere else.
Yes.
It's like a human nature, right? Um, and social media is just really a challenge because all we see is how amazing things are somewhere else. They've got a better life, or they got a better car, or that person's got a better spouse, or they've got more money, or whatever, you name it, right? And really what I feel like I've learned over the years is really that's just not true. But it's hard. It's hard to really, make that our mindset. That's a challenge. And so here's maybe more specifically is in my career, the divorce rate is really, really high. I mean, crazy high. I don't know. I want to say maybe 90%. I feel like that's about right for just how many guys, have been divorced in the fire department. I think law enforcement is no different. I don't know if the military is the same, but I think any type of career where, predominantly men in the fire department, and we just focus on our career. And once you focus on your career or anything that takes that many hours away from your family, eventually your wife's going to be bummed out. And so, these aren't bad guys, but their woman's just tired of them never being around. And so they move on. These guys are divorced. And so now you see guys who've been through maybe a second marriage or maybe third sometimes. Um, and you always wonder, like, man, is there someone better out there? Because marriage is never easy. Like I don't know anyone who can say it's been easy, right? And so you're always wondering, like, man, is there someone else out there that's easier to get along with or better? And my years of watching guys go through their divorces and then go through their new relationships and realizing like it just doesn't get any easier, um, kind of forces me to realize like, the grass isn't always greener somewhere else. Maybe you have to just work on yourself to figure out how to get through situations or, work on partnership. But it's definitely, leaving to try and look for an easier route somewhere else is usually not going to work out. And
Amen.
in your home as well, it's like I worked in an area when I worked in Santa Ana, most people there were just in under the poverty line. And then when we got outsourced to Orange County Fire, now I'm working in some extremely wealthy neighborhoods. Okay, I don't know if you know the neighborhood Coto de Caza is like this extremely affluent community in Orange County. It's a gate-guarded city. Some pro athletes, celebrities live there. And we'd run calls into that neighborhood, and they're miserable. These people are living in mansions with tons of money, and they are absolutely miserable. They're taking depression medicine, anxiety medicine. And so part of that was realizing, like, boy, all those things that look all shiny, they don't mean anything if on the inside you're not happy yourself. And so really, when I say the biggest challenge and biggest learning lesson is that you have to look deeper than what's on the surface, and that's true of material things. That's true of other people, and realizing also that a lot of times our own weaknesses is what we find in other people. So when you're looking at other people and finding all their faults, you got to stop for a second and say, wait a minute, what part of me am I seeing? And then facing yourself. That's tough. That is a very, very difficult task for anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty clear that usually the stuff that you don't like about somebody else is what you don't like about yourself. And that's why you're triggered by it. So if you can start getting a handle on that, you have a lot more capacity to be with people.
Yes, yes, and it's easier said than done. Because
For
it's
sure.
easier just to say, I don't like, I don't like that about whoever, and then move on to someone else and then realize like, oh gosh, some things don't change. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there is, I remember Debbie Ford would always say, if you have one finger pointing at somebody else, you have at least three fingers pointing back at you, right?
True. Yep.
So it's like, okay, here, this is where you need to look, not over there, right? So, but
So true.
that's the biggest challenge we have in our lives. And as you say, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? It's like
No.
that constant introspection. And, like also to what you were saying, it's like, yes, the grass is greener, but it's like, where are we looking, right? Where are we looking? And can we really turn around and say, like, take stock of what is and assume responsibility for our part in it and not blame. That's not what I mean by responsibility. Just the if it's mine, how am I contributing to this? And
Yep.
what could I change to change it, to make something different out of it?
And I think most people don't like, sometimes we fear change. Like sometimes change is just always, there's some resistance to change. I feel like if we are willing to admit that we're not perfect, then we should be open to accepting change more readily, especially change that's going to make us better. I feel like that's why we're here. We're here to learn and to grow and to become better, and that means at some point something's going to have to change. Unless you're perfect already. And then in that case, you probably wouldn't be here right now. So,
And we all are perfect already, but that doesn't mean we don't want to grow. Like, I'm, you
correct.
know,
Exactly.
yes. Hmm.
And
So
that's I'd say, I'm thankful to the teachings in my energy training, is because as we learn about who we really are, we really are the soul. When we get rid of this facade that we're carrying around and look at ourselves as a soul, we are perfect already as that. But it leaves us a lot of work to do on the virtues that we're developing though in the human side of us. This
Yes.
is true.
and we are the soul, right? We are love, essentially, right? But we forgot. So given that we're talking about love, tell us about the time when you took a chance for love. And it doesn't have to be necessarily romantic love. Just when did you take a chance for love?
Yeah, that's a tough one. When I think about it's interesting. I think that men in general are not really in touch with the emotional side in general. Now, there's exceptions to that, I know, and I think that's also false, because I think men are truly emotional, very emotional, and we just come up with these weird social fallacies that we're not good at showing it. Um, but like I know that growing up, it was interesting. I had so many friends. I was just always a very friendly person, had tons of friends, friends who were boys, friends who were girls, and but never really had the fortitude of ever like trying to pursue any further than that. Finally, like I didn't really actually go on a date till I was a senior in high school, partly because I was just too scared to ask a girl out to go on a date. Even the high school dances, like, girls would say, "Hey, you want to go to the dance?" And I'd go to the dance, but I couldn't even ask a girl out to a dance in high school. I feel like it was weird because I was like, I got so many friends. Anyone I ask, they'll say yes. Like that was never a question. But I guess I just had so much just fear. I guess it was fear in my mind. So so that's a hard one. I know on the questions, that's the toughest one for me, because I think to myself, even for my wife, even when we started going out, it was just as a group of friends. Basically, they asked me to go out with them as a group. And so when it came down to finally stepping up and asking her if she'd be my girlfriend, it was like, man, I was scared to death of that. Um, but maybe that was the first, maybe that was the biggest step that I ever took. And then after that, looking back on it, realizing like, man, I was such an idiot. Like why would I think that way? Why did I do that? And then especially thinking, that, you know, who knows what the future would look like if I'd have found someone else, if I'd have asked someone else if they wanted to go out. Like it probably could have been any one of hundreds or maybe even thousands of different, friends that I had throughout high school and college. But I felt like we were meant to be, because if we weren't, it wouldn't have happened that way. And
Yep.
so everything is guided at some level. But to say taking a chance for love, um, boy, I think that one is probably the best I can think of, as far as asking her to go out, when we were younger. But then again, in the fire department, we're so close. We've developed strong bonds with each other because we're living together at least 1/3 of the time. At least 10 days out of the month, we're living together with a group of guys, or men and women. And so the other thing is, I think, just when you find that you have someone else you're responsible for, anytime that you realize like you have accountability for their own well-being, that's challenging too. And so I'd say the next best thing I can think of is, in the times when you see a coworker going through a tough time, and just stepping into a way to try and help them out or offer them support.
Mhm.
And part of that is because, like anything else, there's times when there's conflict. Even in the family environment of the fire department, there'll be conflict at times. And some of the toughest things were trying to settle those conflicts. What I found was, all the conflicts we had, and this is in my own relationship as well, it's usually a miscommunication. Somebody said something and someone heard it a certain way, or took it the wrong way, or developed these things in their mind and ran with it. When you find, no matter how big the argument got, when you get back to the very start of it, something was miscommunicated, and you can solve practically everything by just getting back to the beginning. That takes courage sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to just talk to somebody face to face and go, hey, what did you mean when you said this? And oh my gosh, we're terrible in the fire department. We'll talk about it behind someone's back. Oh, did you hear what this guy said? And I think that's one thing. When women are no better. I see my wife's friends all the time. It's like,
We're like, did you see the look on their face or the way they said it? And you're like, oh, we had meaning to everything.
I
It's
know, I know. And it's terrible. But you know what though? At some point, someone just has to step up and say, you know what, I'm gonna go back to that person and find out what they meant when they said that. And what you'll find out is it was nothing like what you thought. Couldn't
so
we
I can
solve
honestly
most of the
say
world's
I've been
problems?
practicing this with my boyfriend lately because I've been realizing there's a way he communicates that I've added meaning to, and I'm only just now realizing I don't think he's meaning what I think he's meaning with the way when he communicates in this style. I think it just reminds me of someone in my past who communicated that way. And I am now adding all this meaning that he's like that person. It's
Yep.
really hard to dismantle them, but when you do, it's really brilliant because it's opened up some really amazing conversations when I could be like, can we stop? Because I think you mean this when you say that. And he's like, no, I don't mean that at all. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And
Yep.
it's sneaky and it's really pervasive, and we do it all the time. So it's fun when you can stop and be like, all right, I'm getting really mad right now, and I'm getting mad because of the way you're communicating, and here's what I'm making that mean. And he's like, oh no, that's not there at all.
I feel like that alone is one of the biggest challenges of being a human being, is because the communication is so difficult. And, according to what we learn, is supposedly once you go back to the soul level, souls can communicate directly. Like there's no language, there's no words, there's no misinterpretation. There's no hiding anything. Like your true, all of your true essence can be readily seen by other souls. And so I think that, wouldn't that be a great world? Well, doesn't that sound amazing? Like that sounds
Amazing.
wonderful, but that's not what we got going on here. What we got going on here is human language, and it's so weak. In fact, when I was a trainee, when I was like in my volunteer time in the fire department, I'd go on these training drills with the guys, and after every drill they'd have a critique. And guys would be like, we had communication problems, and didn't like convey what they wanted, and so things didn't get done the way they wanted. And I'm like, okay, so all we got to do is fix these communication problems. After 30 years in the fire department, when you go on a training drill, at the end of the drill, guess what the biggest problem is? Communication problems. I'm like, we haven't fixed that in 30 years. Certain things are not going to get fixed. So it's incumbent upon us to just realize that, okay, we got to fix this as best as we can in our own lives. So yeah, the challenge of communicating, it's just it's a wonderful part of the human experience, right? And in fact,
And
every part of our life.
you gotta laugh at yourself at times too, right? You gotta like be able to just be like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. Okay.
Totally.
Well, we're meaning making machines, right? There's facts, and then there's all the stuff that we're making up, right?
So
And it's so distant. And I remember, so at Landmark, like one of the things they would say is the difference between a human and a stone is that as the human is rolling down the hill, the chatter will never stop, right? The
Yep.
stone just rolls down the hill. The human is going to go comment all the way down, right? And I don't know where I heard this other one. It's like our mind is like a roller coaster. It loves to hear us scream, right? It really is like that's the setup, right? For us to just like, our nervous system is on high alert, and I'm getting ready to fight, and you don't dare telling me what I need to think, and all of that, right? It's fascinating. And so we're never or hardly ever responding to what the person is saying to us. We're just responding to the conversations in our heads about what they're saying, about who they are, about our past, about like there's so much stuff in there that we cannot really hear what people are saying, right?
Yes, this is true.
Mhm. Oh, to be human. All right, Bill, last question. What's the legacy you want to leave? What do you want people to remember about you?
So I feel like that's the mission I'm working on now. So when I was decided to move out of the fire department to do healing full time, and I was like, I really want to do healings. And at that time, the East Coast master instructor that I studied under for my Pranic Healing certification, he was coming up with a business development course. Because he said, look, you guys who are energy healers, you guys could be really great, but you need some business skills. And I was like, yeah, this is really not my skill set. So I took his class, and the training course he did as a 6-month course. And part of that training was you should focus on who's your ideal client, have a niche. Don't try to heal the world. Focus on somebody. Pick a group and focus on them. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to focus on firefighters. I know firsthand how much firefighters need healing. Not just physical healing. Okay, everyone thinks, oh, it's just your back, it's your neck, it's your shoulder. No, that's not the biggest part. The biggest part is the emotional trauma that is suffered over the course of the career. PTSD, it's a real thing. Like I realized, like, you see some pretty bad things over the course of a career, and that stuff shows up in your dream state. It shows up in how you deal with your spouse. And I really felt like that's the biggest thing that's untreated among firefighters is what's going on in our minds and our emotions. And so I feel like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on that as my primary focus. And it's been difficult because firemen aren't really open to this whole thing. Okay. First of all, like I said, there's nothing wrong with them, right? The firemen, there's nothing wrong. You like, hey, do you need any help? They're like, no, I'm good, bro. Standard answer. And I'm here to try and go out to the fire department, and I'm trying to tell guys, like, you're not that good. You actually got a lot that needs healing. Relationship healing. I know guys that are just, angry at women because, their wife took them through the ringers through a divorce. And so it's like, no, all those things need to be healed. And so my focus is on that. Like I'm trying to not do as many healings as I was doing for just general people. I still love doing healings. If anyone wants a session, I'm happy to do a session, but I'm going to the fire stations and trying to tell these guys that they need this healing. And I can do that differently because, we always have people come into the station trying to sell this modality and that modality. You got to do this, you got to try that. Like I said, firemen are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. So they're not open to that. And especially because these are outsiders coming in. These are people that are trying to sell their services without being firefighters themselves. So they're like, yeah, we know what you're going through. It's like, no, I don't think you really know what we're going through. You know, you can't unless you've been there. And that's where I'm different. I can go into a fire station and say, guys, I've been there. Did my 30 years. I've been there and I know everything that you got going on in your life. You can't BS me. I know that you need this healing. Like I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, 100% firefighters need this healing. And so that's my legacy that I want, and I'm focusing on that. So I feel like if it takes me a couple years in my own department, so I'm focusing on Orange County Fire, because I know these guys. I can go visit a station. I know the guys. It's like I worked with you guys. I know they need this healing, and I'm trying to bring this healing to these guys. It's little by little. It is very slow going. But here's the thing. Once I get one, you know, or a small handful of really good outcomes, and these guys could be like, hey, that was amazing. I feel like $1 million right now. Cleared my mind, cleared my emotions. Now I feel good and I'm feeling healthy. Once I can have that and that word spreads through the department, because it will spread through the department. We got three things. You can either, you know, spread the word, you either tell a friend, you got your telephone, tell a friend, or tell a fireman. You know, once a fireman has something really good, they'll spread that far and wide. And so I feel like once that can really carry through my department, and everyone knows someone who's working on another department, then it'll help carry Los Angeles County, Riverside County, San Diego County, Ventura. Like I can get through Southern California, maybe spread through the state, maybe then spread through the nation. Like I could see myself, I had a 30-year career in the fire department. I could easily do a 30-year career in Pranic Healing. Over the next 30 years, we could spread Pranic Healing into the fire service throughout the nation. And who knows, worldwide, I don't know, but at least, and I know the fire department's different worldwide. There's some places where it's not what it is in the US. In the US, it is a very stable career, but it will take a toll on your life and your body. So I'm focusing on really anchoring Pranic Healing throughout the fire service in our nation. And if that could be my legacy, I'd be like, my mission is complete.
I have chills.
Bring
It's
it
such a
on.
beautiful, yes.
Wouldn't it be great? Just think about it. That
I
90%.
already see you training other firemen so they can take this and
Oh,
yeah.
here's the thing. If they were receiving Pranic Healing, the 90% divorce rate would go down to zero practically, because then it's like, wait a minute, we can do healing for your spouse. Okay, we can do healing for you, healing for like the family becomes healed. We're not just
Yep.
healing one person here. We're healing the family every time that we're healing. And so I'm thinking all these different families, like that's the ripple effect that goes on. But I'm really focusing first on where I have kind of my leg in the door.
I
And
love it.
that's, you know, what's so cool about what you're saying is that when people come for healings, right? Like when I go, let's say, to somebody who facilitates healing, yes, it is like I get healed, but it's also my ancestry that gets healed and my future, like my future legacy that gets healed, right? And so every person that I touch gets impacted by that. That's what I hear when you're saying that. And that's just so incredibly powerful, right? It's like one drop that goes, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's my spot of focus, and it does. It just carries on. And then who's to say if, you know, I know public safety incorporates law enforcement, and usually anywhere you go, the law enforcement staff is double the size of the fire department. So I'm thinking to myself, boy, if this gets through the fire service and then all of a sudden they'd say, hey, how about into law enforcement? We need this too. Yes, you do. And then all of a sudden, boom, we've just exponentially increased the number of people that we can serve. There's really no end. But I just feel like I know it's a tough crowd, but hey, I'm used to working you know, just against the popular opinion, and sometimes you just, when you know what's right, you just got to keep working with it.
Mm, love it.
Yeah.
So, Bill, do you want to tell, like, if there's firefighters out there listening, or if you know a firefighter, or if they want to get in touch with you, how do they reach out? And
Yeah, so here's the thing. Um, it's there's Pranic healers now around the country. When I first started, it was very localized. There's a couple pockets of healers around the nation. Now the word is really starting to spread. So no matter where you are in the nation, you can find somebody near. If you want to try to find, on what I'd like to do is I can direct you to someone in your area, because it's a small world. We know who's working where. So I have a website, and my company name is called Orange County Prana. because I'm working in Orange County, and so Pranic Healing in Orange County is kind of where I wanted to kind of make my little company name. So the website I have is ocprana.com. And if you go to my website, you can kind of see what I have offering in Pranic Healing, and it has my contact info on there. So that's a way that you can get a hold of us, and we can steer you to someone in your area. Now, what's really wild is it works over the phone. So like a lot of my clients are either nationwide or international. I do have a lot of people that I serve from our area, and it's like, hey, if you want me to do a healing, or one of my, on our team here do your healing, that's great. But if you want to go to somebody in your area, I'm happy to refer you to someone in your area, because I want to do whatever you feel more comfortable with. But truly, if you know a firefighter and you can point them to ocprana.com, I try to tailor my website specifically towards the fire department. And so guys can go on there and they're like, okay, if a normal person talks to a firefighter about pranic healing, they're going to think you're a nutcase. If a firefighter looks at my website, they're going to see, oh wow, that's weird, this guy's a firefighter. At least maybe they'll have this little bit of open mind to say, okay, if this guy's a firefighter, let me talk to this guy and see what he's all about. That's all I need. All I need is that tiniest little bit of curiosity, and then we'll take it from there.
Love it. Awesome. Yay. Bill, thank you so much for coming today to play with us, for sharing your passion for healing. It's just really incredible, the ripples that you are creating in this world with your positivity and your optimism and the healing that you're doing. I'm just in awe of the work that you are creating on this planet. So thank you so much.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity. It's great what you both are doing to help the world, in healing both men and women, and I feel like everyone does need that type of help. So I'm glad you gave me this opportunity to come on here today.
Awesome. Everyone out there listening, thank you so much for being here with us today. If you loved what you heard, please leave us a review. Please share with your friends. And please remember that you are extraordinary and you rock. The links for Bill's information will be attached, and you can find our Linktree information too in the notes for the podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Bye for now. Bill, do you want to say bye?
Bye. Thank you all. Stay well now.